Welcome to my podcast. I'm your host, Paige, at Page of Wands. Make your dreams reality. Dive into the deepest parts of yourself in the world in your imagination. Let's free ourselves. Hello, loves. How are you today? I recorded a podcast episode and I completely forgot to do an introduction of myself. So this episode, we're doing a little backwards, but this one's going to be about getting to know me. And hopefully you can resonate and stick around and listen to these episodes in the future. So my name is Paige. I have an Instagram and an Etsy, Page of Wands, where I do tarot readings and psychic readings. And I am wanting to share my knowledge. So I'm here with an open mind to kind of help other people with their journey and what they might want to accept into their life, or just give them a new perspective that helps them live better or just be happy. Because being happy was something that was so hard for me when I was younger, and sometimes even now so I can struggle a bit with some things, but I mean, it doesn't happen that often. Sometimes a little ego doubt gets in there, but I have become aware of when this starts happening, that I can switch it off and deal with the problems then, there, right now. And I'm hoping the same for you guys. And here I just like to explore esoteric topics and anything that's intriguing that isn't of mainstream. I really love to dive into the unknown. The unknown is my place. It feels like home to me. I'm talking about the tarot, the psychic, the witchy things, the awareness. I like talking about law of attraction. I like the psychology behind the mind. I love to talk about spirits and ghosts and past lives and the lives of things that do not exist anymore. I like hearing stories. I love stories. I like to visit historical houses a lot, like the homes that they turn into museums. I love visiting those and learning about the history and the people and the time and how it was so different. I love history like that. I am fascinated with mythology of all sorts. I read up on mythology a lot. And I just like to question things. I like to expand my awareness. I like to accept the things that just make your life feel like pure magic. And if you like that sort of thing, follow along with me and let me know your input. Let me know how you relate. We're going to talk about so many things, and hopefully this can act as a gateway for you to explore yourself more. So I had started a new Instagram in December 2020, and I had previously erased all of my social media. I had nothing. I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have Pinterest. I didn't have anything. So what made me get a Instagram was my husband had gotten really sick, and he actually collapsed in the floor one night, which it really caught me by surprise because I had woke up, and I don't wake up during the night. I'm a very heavy sleeper, and he always tells me if there was a fire in the house, I would literally die in the fire because there would be no way that I would even wake up. So for some reason, I woke up, okay? And he got up to use the bathroom. And another thing that I don't do is I don't go into the bathroom when my husband is in there. I know some people do. Like, oh, I gotta grab this and stuff. I don't do it. I don't do it at all. Like, that's our boundary. We just don't go in the bathroom with each other. But I knocked on the door and I cracked it open. He didn't even hear me because I had forgotten to grab, I left clothes in there or something. So I forgot to grab them out. So I wanted to grab them. Why was that important to me at that time? It was 4 a.m. I don't know. I usually wouldn't give a shit. But I went in there to grab them. But I saw him. He was over the toilet. He was on the floor. He was hanging onto the toilet. And I shook him. and he was lethargic. Like, he couldn't make sense of anything. He didn't know where he was at. He didn't even know his own name. And he went to stand up and he fell down into the wall. So I grabbed my phone and I called 911. And then he tried to stand up again, and he braced himself on the couch, but then he fell down in the floor. And before he did that, he said, "This is it, I'm dying." And he just went down. So I called an ambulance and they got there. And we found out that he had a bacteria called H. pylori. It's very common, but more common in like third world countries, underdeveloped countries. And he was deployed to Afghanistan a few times. And we think that's where he got it from. So he's had this for a very long time. Nobody could really figure out why he was having the issues he was having. He felt like he always had heartburn, but what that ended up being was an ulcer. From the H. pylori, it had ate into his pancreas, and he had massive blood loss. And he was in the hospital for a bit, and he almost bled to death. They didn't want to give him as much blood as he needed because there was such a shortage. And I don't know if there still is or not, but there was such a shortage of blood. They tried to make up for it with iron bags. So he ended up getting actually half of his blood from blood transfusions. And then I think he had like 8 iron bags. It was a lot. It was an incredible amount of blood transfusions and bags of iron, and he still wasn't feeling tip top. But there was one day that I went to see him, and he was actually talking this day, and he looked at me and he was like, "Am I going to be okay?" And I said, "If you don't start moving, you're not." I said, "You have pneumonia." I said, "You have to move. If you don't move, you're going to get worse." So he got up, and his heart rate was so bad. It was so high. And if he even moved his hand just a little bit, his heart rate would shoot up. And he was standing up, and he's like, "Is it okay if my heart rate does that?" I said, "Well, it's not going to get any better if you don't, if you don't start moving and you don't start getting some energy back." So, that day they decided to release him since he was a little bit more alert. He was very weak for a while, and he was off of work for a bit. But he was sent home with a breathing, like, a treatment thing that would help him. It would train him to breathe deeper. So he had to do that. And it was a very long journey. So in that time, I had gotten on Instagram kind of to reach out for help a little bit. And I started the tarots because I've been doing tarot for a while and doing psychic readings within my family. And they trusted me, and they pushed me towards doing it. They're like, "You can help other people and also help yourself at the same time right now in the situation that you're in." So during that time, I had actually started drawing too, and people were putting donations in. I was doing them for free for a starseed drawing where me and a friend would look into these charts, and I would draw from the charts that were read. I would draw their star seeds. So the donations that I got had made up for all the money that we would have lost. And we also had some friends, and his work had donated some money as well to help us get through it. I mean, this was during Christmas. We had no Christmas. So after that, I couldn't believe the help that we got. And I knew it was like a calling that I wanted to do this for everybody else. And put out stuff in any way that I could. So since then, I've been creating things too and adding to my shop. I'm not just a psychic reader. I've been adding tangible items, which I try to stay away from for the most part, but I love to create. And I know if I don't get rid of the things that I create, it hoards and it stays and it gets put in boxes, never to be seen again. It gets lost. So I like to share things with people. So that's where I'm at now. That's kind of the small story, what's led me to start doing psychic readings and tarot readings for the public. My journey has been incredible. There's been so much. I can't believe where I'm at right now in my life. I have learned how to manifest the life that I want, and I could not want that to be, what's the right words to say? I would want everybody to get to experience that as much as possible, to be able to live the life that they believe they deserve. So I knew at some point I knew that the person I was deserved a better life than what I was given. The life that, not that I was given, really, that I was creating for myself, but I thought that it was just the cards that were dealt to me. It was just the cards, so I had to play by them. But I realized I had a choice. I eventually just started making my own choices for myself. Like, this isn't the act of this or that or things that I can't control. There are things that I can control, and there's things that I can't control. I can't control the weather, but I can control what I eat. I can't control how somebody else treats me, but I can control how I think. And a lot of times what's really helped me was with other people and relationships is never taking anything personal. I don't ever take the things people say personally, because I have gotten into a mindset that we are just observing our surroundings and making sense of it, and our observations and the things we say are just kind of projections of what we are experiencing. And a lot of times people will project that onto other people, and it might not be so nice. It might be very negative. So I had to find my self-worth in what I thought about myself, because I know there are a million different versions of myself apart from the version I have of myself. So it really only matters what I think and what I believe I deserve. And that is the foundation of which I work, or how I process things on. That is how I'm able to be happy with what I got. That is the way that I navigate life now. Before, I was navigating from a very egotistical mindset that everything was happening to me and not happening for me. I was a victim, and I really had to work on myself and come a very long way. I would blame things on my childhood trauma. I had a lot of trauma. I only share my trauma with people because I know it can relate, and I know that if you're there in that place, that maybe my story will encourage you and inspire you to create the life that you dream of. So that's why I talk about that, and those things that used to trigger me don't trigger me anymore. I have experienced a lot of death. I am very curious about death, and I think that's because I have had so many people in my life go due to that, and I've had to process that. And sometimes I didn't even get the time to process. Things would just happen so quickly, and then I would have to come back, or my dreams would help me sort through them and do healing. And so I do rely a lot on my dreams. Sleep is very, very important to me. I am a person who requires tons and tons of sleep. 10 hours to be exact. 10 hours of sleep. I do not wake up for alarms. So it was... When me and my husband first got together, it was actually really funny, because he was just always questioning me, like, how do you have a job still? Like, it wasn't that I was irresponsible. I was a very hard worker and very excited about working. It was more so like my body just wouldn't allow me to wake up in time. If I was to stay up later, I know I was going to sleep through my alarm. So I had so many alarms set all the time, just to wake me up. But that was, he was just like, eventually, like, as soon as I got pregnant with my third child, he was just like, okay, I think you need to stay home, get your sleep, take care of the kids, do what you got to do. So that's just kind of what led me to be able to kind of have that freedom for myself. But I had to allow myself at a certain point to have a decent relationship, because I was having these relationships with guys who I knew were no good for me, but I continued to have them because I was too scared of jumping into something that could potentially hurt me. But I didn't realize that I was really hurting myself by being in these short-term relationships that I knew were not going to go anywhere. and put myself in those situations for abuse, which is something else that I've had to experience in my life. So I've had to experience abuse in multiple ways in my life, from before I even had a memory to even remember now. Like, the things that I was told from when I was younger, about 3 years old, was when it really started, when the abuse it started, and it didn't leave my life until I made that decision that I was done with it. So from 3 years old, abuse from my father, who was not in my life after 3. And then there was abuse from a stepfather figure. That was very traumatic. That was kind of like, I used to blame this person a lot for the way that I thought and the way that my life went. Because I was like, if it wasn't for them, this is what happens. This is the misery I have to live with. And so there was a lot of stuff that happened. And then, so with that situation, it triggered things like, I never considered having an eating disorder, but there were times that I would get very upset, and I would starve myself on purpose, just like self-harm things. Like, so I would do that. And then I started doing a lot of things to myself, self-sabotaging everything. My relationships, my home life was very crazy. At school, nobody would really know, because that was my escape. The school was my escape, so I tried to make as many friends as possible. And maybe only 1 or 2 of them really knew I really let them in. So there's only like 2 people that I really let in. And I had to work through all of that to get to where I am now. And it's absolutely a beautiful story, and I would like to share it with you guys, and so you guys can see how everything unfolded, and let you guys know that you guys can do the same thing with your life, no matter where you're from. Poverty, that was huge with me. Not having any money, and where I'm at now, I am very, very financially stable. It's actually incredibly the opposite of what I've lived with. Like, when I was younger, we didn't have hot water. So cold showers in the winter was not fun. We had to heat up our water on the stove if we did want hot water. We were just that poor. We didn't have cable television. We did have a phone. We often kind of relied on other people's charity. And I lived that way even into some of my adulthood life, even though I worked extremely hard. And my mother was also a very, very hard worker. But it was like the choices that we made, like the jobs that we chose to do because we didn't think we were worthy of nothing else, or we weren't smart enough for something bigger, or we were just scared to get into something different. It really held us back financially instead of going after the thing that scared us and that would actually benefit our life better. So we were kind of stuck in this low vibe, and I got this mindset that money was evil, and it's not evil. I flipped my perception of that, because money is energy, and if you are hating on something, like, you want it, but you're like, it's evil, it's bad, it's not going to come to you. It's like the law of attraction. You attract what you put out. So if you're putting that out there, you're attracting no money. And I was like, no, actually, money's pretty decent. So I had to change my mindset about that, and I don't know what happened. I mean, me and my husband saw like this switch in things. Like, me and him never struggled together. We always had just enough to get by. The bills were paid. Okay, we had food and we had clothes. That was great. But as time went on, there was things that just would happen for us, and it would free up a lot of money, or we would have, like, money would just come in, like, we overpaid on something for so long that we would get, like, a huge check and it would come in, like, the mail, and we were just like, really? Really? That was surprising. That was a nice gift. And so I'm not bragging about this, but I'm talking about this to show you guys that if you guys just change your mindset, things will start happening for you in that way. And my daughter's in here. I've got 3 kids, guys. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but she's in here right now, so you guys will hear her on this. This podcast, I want to be free-flowing, talking, just having you guys get to know me. I don't really want to have anything structured or set up. I have I guess it's not a hard time, but it's like this mindset that I'm trying to get out of, that everything has to be structured and wrote down. I'm not that kind of person. I'm a very free-flowing person, so I know that I have tried a lot to just sit down and write things and then, like, have them perfect. And I end up putting all this energy into something that I don't even use. Like, I know I'm going to go off topic and go on little rants anyway. So I might as well just skip to it. Just get down to just recording my podcast. And I think that's what held me back from having a podcast for so long. I never felt like I was ready enough. And we're never going to be ready enough. We're just as ready as we're always going to be. So here I am, and you guys are going to hear the circus of my life in the background. And that's what I like to call it. I always call it a circus, and sometimes I call it a shit show, because sometimes these wild animals can be very loud and obnoxious and fun and crazy. But we are here to be our authentic self, and this is my life, and I'm here to share it with you guys. So with that said, I hope you guys stick around. I'm so excited for this podcast. We are going to be talking about all the crazy things, all the good stuff that you might not ever have talked about before, like new perceptions and just self-healing and self-love and love for others and things to just better ourselves and the quality of life we live. Because I say it's not about the quantity of life. It's not about how much time you have. You're not given time. You're not owed time. Nobody's owed time. But it's about the quality that we give ourselves. It's always about the quality. Never sell yourself short. Never buy the cheaper item just because you're saving money. Okay? You're going to pay for it one way or another. You're going to pay for it. You get what you pay for. I believe that. I really believe that you're going to get what you could pay for. So always be conscious of that and just enjoy life. Give yourself the best and be free, guys. Love ya. I'll talk to you next time.